Hello everyone. In today's session, we are going to learn about the hotspots of India. Biodiversity is a collection of flora and fauna of a place. Biodiversity hotspot is a region which is prime location for the existence of rich biodiversity, but also faces the threat of destruction. So you can say that biodiversity hotspot is nothing but a place where that particular place is rich in flora and fauna, but it is also under a threat of destruction. It is a place which needs our immediate and constant attention to survive and thrive in future as well. This idea of identifying hotspot was put forth by Norman Maize in 1988. By now, a total of 35 biodiversity hotspots have been identified, out of which most of them lie in the tropical forests. Almost 2.3% of land surface of Earth is represented by these hotspots. These also comprise of around 50% of the world's most common plant species and 42% of terrestrial vertebrates prevalent. Sadly, these biodiversity hotspots have been losing 86% of their habitats, some of which are still on verge of extinction due to serious threats posed by climate change and human intervention. So, what is needed for a particular region to be called as a hotspot? It has to fulfill at least two criteria. That is, it should comprise of at least 1,500 species of vascular plants, that is more than 0.5% of the world's total plants, and it should have lost greater than or equal to 70% of its original habitat. India has always been on the list of the richest countries in the world for its biodiversity, which can easily be seen in the demography of its land. Though biodiversity and demographic diversity are two completely different topics, the human population has been dependent on this biodiversity since forever in numerous ways. Also, as a result of exponential growth in human population, their survival pressure too has increased tremendously on the biodiversity. India is a country rich in biological diversity. We have already learned about that. It is situated in the Indo-Malaya ecozone and comprises of 2 out of 35 biodiversity hotspots in the world. The third one, that is Indo-Burma, lies partially in northeast India. In India, there are approximately 350 mammals, which make up 7.6% of world species, 1,222 birds, which make up 2.6% of the world species, 197 amphibians, which make up 4.4% of the world species, 408 reptiles, which make up 6.2% of the world species, 2,546 fishes, which make up to 11.7% of the world species, and 15,000 flowering plants, which make up to 6% of the total world species. If we see the history, India originally belonged to Gondwana, from where many Indian species originated. Due to the collision of peninsular India with the Laurasian landmass, there was a mass exchange of species which took place. However, what caused most turmoil was the eruption of volcanoes and climate change 20 million years ago, which led to the extinction of many Indian forms. After this, mammals were seen entering India from Asia through the Himalayas, as a result of which, out of the Indian species, there were 12.6% mammals and 4.5% birds, which were endemic, and 45.8% reptiles, as well as 55.8% amphibians. Of the 25 hotspots of biodiversity recognized in the world, 2 are found in India, that we are going to learn, which extend into the neighboring countries, the Indo-Burma region covering the eastern Himalayas and the western Ghats and Sri Lankan region. The hotspots are rich in floral wealth, reptiles, amphibians, mammals, and also in their endemism. The hotspots of India include Western Ghats, Northeast India, Himalayas, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Eastern Himalayas, the first one. As compared to the Western Himalayas that are colder and drier, The eastern Himalaya ranges are much wetter with suitable climate conditions. This supports endemism and biodiversity. The eastern Himalayas comprise of parts of Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and extends up to Burma. The forest vegetation ranges from tropical rainforest to temperate alpine forest. Rhododendron is a dominant tree of this particular region. The topography in the eastern Himalayan region is quite varied that helps biodiversity and endemism. The rugged mountains and valleys support the virgin forests which are rich in many endemic plant species. In the Indian part of the eastern Himalayan hotspot, about 5,800 plant species are found out of which around 2,000 are endemic. Sikkim is one of the most blessed Indian states so far as endemism is considered. As of the 4,250 plant species found there, 60% are endemic to the region. Paleobotanists consider the Indo-Burman region to be one of the centers of the origin for the flowering plants, that is angiosperms. Many primitive angiospermic families occurring there, such as Magnoliaceae, Winteraceae, etc., support this contention. The eastern Himalayas are home to around 8,000 species of angiosperms, of which nearly 40% are endemic. The characteristic floras are rhododendron, alnus, betula, magnolia, etc. The animals include members of goat family, antelopes, musk deer, snow leopard, brown bear, black bear, and the red panda. Due to continuous habitat destruction and hunting, many of these species are highly endangered. Andaman and Nicobar Islands are rich in littoral and island type of floras. About 2,500 species of flowering plants have been recorded from here, of which 250 species are endemic. The important hotspots of Andaman and Nicobar Islands are North Andaman, Pike Island, Table Island, South Reef Island, Little and Great Nicobars. Western Himalayas are known for their alpine flora, which abounds in gymnosperms. Some 5,000 species of flowering plants are known to occur in this region, of which 800 species are endemic. The Valley of Flowers, Pithoragarh, Gori Valley, Mandal Chopta Valley, Karakoram, and Ladakh are some of the major hotspots of this region. The second important hotspot of India is the Western Ghats. The Western Ghats run parallel to the west coast of India and constitute more than 16,000 kilometer strip of forest in the states of Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. Locally, they are also known as Sahyadris. The Western Ghats are characterized by low hills. However, it achieves the highest elevation of 2,675 meters at Annamalai up to an elevation of 500 meters. The forests are evergreen in nature, while the forests occurring between 500 and 1,500 meters altitude are of semi-evergreen type. The Western Ghats, by virtue of having a humid tropical climate and geological stability, supports one of the most biodiversity-rich areas of the country. According to an estimate of the 17,000 flowering plant species reported from India, more than 4,500 occur in the Western Ghats. The Botanical Survey of India has listed 518 endangered species endemic to peninsular India, the majority of which occur in the Western Ghats. The dominating plant families in Western Ghats are Acanthaceae, Graminae, Orchidaceae, Rubiaceae, Labiatae, Compositae, and Leguminosae. More than 200 species of rare orchids, many of them are endemic, are found in Western Ghats. Many economically important plants such as banana, rice, black pepper, ginger, etc. have spread to other parts of the country from here. The Western Ghats are home to a rich variety of fauna, which are unique, and many are endemic to this region. Nilgiri langur, lion-tailed macaque, tiger, leopard, elephant, rare species of tortoise, and other amphibians represent the faunal wealth. Many varieties of birds and fishes are also found here. Let us now understand what endemism is. Endemism means the confinement of a particular species, genus, or a group of plants or animals in a particular area. They occur only in a single restricted geographical area. This particular phenomena is called as endemism, and the plant or animal species which occur only to a particular species are called as the endemics. Normally applied only when there is a considerable restriction in that particular area of distribution. Endemism is basically of the following types. Neo-endemism, that is a taxon is evolutionarily young and not yet spread over the new area. Paleo-endemism, the taxon is restricted now, but once it was widely distributed, the restriction of the species in a pocket is due to physical barrier like deserts, mountains, sea, etc., or change in climate or soil type. Epibiotics or relic endemics. These are the plants belonging to fossil groups and are restricted to few pockets due to favorable climate, lack of competition. Example, ginkgo biloba, which is restricted to China but widely spread in the north temperate zone as a fossil. Sequoia dendron giganteum is now restricted to Californian Sierra Nevada. Endemism represents a unique step in the process of evolution which can be perpetuated, and it is concerned depending on the environmental quality. The importance of habitat is very much as in most of the cases, such localities possess a number of endemic species distributed in several taxonomic categories. In the process of natural selection, changes are there which may be disadvantageous to the organism to survive in the present environment and are eliminated. But on the other hand, advantageous ones are retained. Larger areas usually have a greater proportion of endemics than smaller areas. If the whole world is considered as one unit with 100%, then the number of species endemic to the Eastern Alps or to Western Alps added together amount to 78% of the total number of alpic endemics. Endemics are sometimes restricted to a very small area. They are called as local endemics. These endemics arising due to mutation are called as pseudo-endemics. Example, Franklinia alatamaha. Only one plant of this family was present in 18th century in Alatamaha River in Georgia. It is now vanished, but its progeny is found in gardens. Amelistic nobilis in Burma, Picrella trifoliate in West Indies are already vanished, while only a few plants of Sophora vitae are found in islet of Louisiade archipelago. What are the characters of endemics? These are localized in distribution because of their narrow ecological amplitude and are unable to invade in fresh areas. They lack potentiality to migrate because of saturated genomes. Real endemics never migrate, while neo-endemics have the potential to migrate. The dispersal propagules are not able to sustain during migration to other area. It may be due to physical barriers. So these are the reasons why the endemics are not seen in or restricted to one particular area. Factors responsible for endemism are production of or natural crossing among the closely related plants growing under favorable conditions and mutations. If the condition of isolation is developed, the effect becomes more pronounced. Endemism is found in isolated, that is places, that is islands, isolated areas, etc. You can see that 70% species of Himalayas are endemic. Climate is also one of the factors. That is example, north of Himalaya is dry plateau of Tibet and South Himalayan range has alluvial fertile soil. According to Mr. Chatterjee, the percentage of endemic species of dicot plants in India is more than 50. Maximum endemic plants are found in Himalayas and South India. Indo-Gangetic plains have a very small number of endemic species. You can see now the examples of endemic species of India, that is rhododendron from Ericaceae, Beaumontia grandiflora from Apocynaceae, Eleusine coracana, Poaceae, Caryota urina, Ericaceae, Aegil marmelos, Rutaceae, Crotalaria gentiana, Fabaceae, Ficus religiosa, Moraceae, and Sesamum indicum, Pedaliaceae. Other species belong to families like Rubiaceae, with 6 genera: Asteraceae, Rosaceae, Primulaceae, Acanthaceae, etc. The third topic we are going to cover in this particular video is IUCN. IUCN stands for International Union for Conservation of Nature. Officially, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources also. It is an international organization working in the field of nature conservation and sustainable use of natural resources. It was established in 1948, previously called as International Union for the Protection of Nature, that is from 1948 to 56, and then World Conservation Union from 1990 to 2008. It is involved in data gathering and analysis, research, field projects, advocacy, and education. IUCN's mission is to influence, encourage, and assist societies throughout the world to conserve nature and to ensure that any use of natural resources is equitable and ecologically sustainable. It has a membership of around 1,400 departmental and non-governmental, governmental and non-governmental organization. Some 16,000 scientists and experts participate in the work of IUCN commissions on a voluntary basis. It employs approximately 1,000 full-time staff in more than 50 countries. Its headquarters are in Gland, Switzerland. IUCN has observer and consultative status at the United Nations and plays a role in the implementation of several international conventions on nature conservation and biodiversity. It was involved in the establishing the Worldwide Fund for Nature and the World Conservation Monitoring Center. What does IUCN do? Usually, conserving biodiversity is central to the mission of IUCN. The main areas of function are: in science, the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species is published. It acts like hundreds of conservation projects all over the world are taken up by IUCN, and it influences through the collective strength of more than 1,200 government and non-governmental member organizations. The work is framed by a global program developed with and approved by IUCN member organizations every 4 years. The current program runs for 2012 to 2016. The IUCN's global program is coordinated by IUCN's Secretariat and delivered in conjunction with IUCN member organizations, commissions, and IUCN's theme-based programs. As of 2012, the status of plants and animals were like this. Of the total 63,837 species globally assessed plants and animals, the IUCN classified the numbers as below in 2012. 81 were as extinct, 63 as extinct and wild, 3,947 as critically endangered, 5,766 species as endangered, 10,104 is as vulnerable, 4,467 near threatened, and 10,497 species with data which is deficient. The Red Data Book is a public document which is created for recording endangered and rare species of plants, animals, fungi, as well as some local subspecies which are present in a particular region. It helps us in providing complete information for research, studies, and also for monitoring the programs on rare and endangered species and their habitats. This book is mainly created to identify and protect those species which are on the verge of extinction. That is why the name Red Data Book. The name of this book has its origin from Russia. It was originally known as the Red Data Book of Russian Federation, or the RDBRF. The book was based on research conducted between 1961 and 64 by biologists in Russia. Hence, it is also called as the Russian Red Data Book. Currently, the International Union for Conservation of Nature maintains the Red Data Book. IUCN is the world's most detailed inventory center of the global conservation status of biological species. The IUCN was founded in 1948, as we have already learned, with an aim to maintain a complete record of every species that ever lived. The Red Data Book contains a complete list of threatened species. The main aim of this is to provide complete information for research and analysis of different species. It contains color-coded information sheets which are arranged according to the extinction risk of many species and subspecies. Black represents species which are confirmed to be extinct. Red represents species that are endangered. Amber for those species whose status is considered to be vulnerable. White is assigned for species that are rare. Green for species that were formerly endangered but their numbers have started to recover. Gray colored for the species that are classified as vulnerable, endangered or rare, but sufficient information is not available to be properly classified. In a nutshell, the Red Data Book indexes species as threatened, not threatened, unknown. Furthermore, the Red Data Book also has information as to why a species has become extinct along with the population trends and the extent of its range. Critically endangered or CT, which is given by IUCN for wild species whose numbers have decreased or will decrease by 80% within 3 generations. It is therefore considered to be facing an extremely high risk of extinction in the wild. Endangered species EN. It is a population of organisms which is at risk of becoming extinct because of it is either few in numbers or threatened by changing environmental or predation parameters. Also, it could mean that due to deforestation, there may be a lack of food and or water. It is therefore considered to be facing a very high risk of extinction in the wild. Vulnerable species, VU, is a species which has been categorized by the IUCN as likely to become endangered unless the circumstances threatening its survival and reproduction improve. It is therefore considered to be facing a high risk of extinction in wild. So, critically endangered, extremely high risk, endangered, very high risk, and vulnerable species, high risk of extinction in wild. Other divisions could be extinct, functionally extinct, and extinct in the wild. A species becomes extinct when the last existing member of that species dies. Extinction, therefore, becomes a certainty when there are no surviving individuals that are able to reproduce and create a new generation. A species may become functionally extinct when only a handful of individuals survive, which are unable to reproduce due to poor health, age, sparse distribution over a large range, a lack of individuals of both sexes, or other reasons. An important aspect of extinction at the present time is human attempts to preserve critically endangered species, which is reflected by the creation of the conservation status extinction in wild, that is EW. Species listed under this status by IUCN are not known to have any living specimens in the wild and are maintained only in zoos or other artificial environments. Some of these species are functionally extinct as they are no longer part of their natural habitat and is unlikely the species will ever be restored to the wild. So what are the reasons for this species extinction? Main reasons for extinction are either natural or man-made. Through evolution, new species arise through the process of speciation, and species become extinct when they are no longer able to survive in changing conditions or against superior competition. A typical species becomes extinct within 10 million years or 1 crore years of its first appearance, although some species called living fossils survive virtually unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Extinction, though, is usually a natural phenomenon. It is estimated that 99.9% of all species that have ever lived are now extinct. Various anthropogenic activities causing extinction are man-made reasons. Only recently, scientists have become alarmed at the high rates of recent extinctions due to various human actions. or activities. Some of these activities include intentional or accidental introduction of invasive alien species, overexploitation, unscientific collection of non-timber forest produce, including medicinal plant, climate change, unsustainable tourism, habitat destruction, encroachment, etc. What are the advantages of having a red data book? It helps in identifying all animals, birds, and other species about their conservation status. It is used to evaluate the population of a particular species. The data available in this book can be used to evaluate the taxa at global level. With the help of this book, we can estimate the risk of taxa becoming globally extinct. It provides a framework or guidelines for implementing protective measures for endangered species. Are there any disadvantages for this Red Data book? Information available in the Red Data book is incomplete as of now. Many species, both extinct and extant, are not updated in this book. The source of the book's data has been speculated and has been mired in controversy sometimes. This book maintains a complete record of all animals, plants, other species, but it has no information about the microbes. Red Data Book of India. The Red Data Book of India includes the conservation status of animals and plants which are endemic to the Indian subcontinent. The data for this book is provided through surveys which are conducted by the Zoological Survey of India and the Botanical Survey of India under the guidance of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Extinct plants are enlisted in Red Data Book of Botanical Survey of India. As per the Red Data Book of BSI, 17 plants have been recorded as extinct. However, during recent exploration by BSA in some of the previously unexplored areas, the numbers of such reported extinct species of the plants have been rediscovered. This is a list of plants that have been red listed. Barlaria species from Acanthaceae, Dicliptera, Hypoestis, then Lepidigathis, Mackenzie cordata, then Sentapoa, Madurensis. These are all examples of some examples of plants which belong to Acanthaceae family and which are now listed in the Red Data Book of India. And Aceraceum from Aceraceae, that is seen in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh. This is highly, that is vulnerable. Then Acer oblongum, this is also from Aceraceae from Uttar Pradesh. It is likely to be extinct. Then Allium strachyi Baker from LEAC, also from Jammu and Kashmir, which is vulnerable. Then Erva vitae from Amaranthus from Tamil Nadu. Then Buchnania beriberi from Anacardiaceae, that is from Kerala. Then Desmos viridiflorus from Ananaceae from Tamil Nadu. These are all the examples of plants which are there in the Red Data Book of India. So after having or after learning about all these things, it is our duty to see that or to ensure that the plants and animals which are listed in these or listed in this particular Red Data Book should be maintained either in conservatories or maybe in some protected areas or areas which are known as a sacred groves or groves which are meant for maintaining these animals and plants, or artificially we have to see that these species are represented so that we can learn more about the evolution of various organisms on this earth. Thank you.